Rethinking genetically modified organisms are often known as GMOs. There's often a problem with GMOs that we haven't been able to figure out recently. The introduction of pesticides to help grow the best agriculture is being put in the environment in many ways, which is true. It's often sprayed in the air by crop dusting planes. So what they'll do is they'll go over the area that they want to spray the pesticides on, then they'll fly low and they'll drop their pesticides obviously through the air and then onto the plant itself. Genetically engineered into the plant itself. In some cases, they'll do this. Some of these crops are being shown to produce undesired effects. So what that means is that they're often seeing that some of these pesticides aren't giving the quality of plants that they want, so it's definitely time for that change. The history of GMOs. GMOs began before recorded history. So back in the earlier days, um, they didn't really obviously use pesticides to change it. So what they would do is they would select the best crops and the animals to obviously produce the most desired effects in the strongest animals. Gregor Mendel in the 1860s crossed different garden peas and introduced the concept of genes. So what he did was he would take different peas and their flower position and obviously their seed color, and that would produce a different plant than when he would combine two other ones. So this is kind of where the topic of GMO really started. Frederick Michener in 1868 discovered DNA, and he found out that it was a double helix shape. So that's kind of where this whole topic of DNA really started. In 1944, Oswald Avery discussed DNA carrying molecular data. So before this time, they just thought of DNA as a building block. They didn't really know what it was made of or what to really do with it. And then gene splicing, what they would do is they would take half the gene and take another half of another gene and combine them together to make obviously a different gene. There's a lot of people that are affected by GMOs, mostly people, because we come in contact with lower grades of pesticides every day. When we have fruit in our refrigerators and all that kind of stuff, we have to wash it off beforehand. Animals that eat the GMO, so out in wherever they're growing the crops and all that, they have plants that are trying to eat these pesticides or eat the plants that have the pesticides on them. Surrounding plants and animals, often when it's traveled in the air, it does affect plants that they don't want to be around it. Um, Sometimes animals are affected. Sometimes they'll get in the water and whatnot. And obviously, it's a risk for most people. So a policy proposal is a new way to introduce pesticides. What I was proposing we do is manipulate genes of plants without harming the animals and local crops. So this won't be into the air or anything. It won't spread to animals that can't be harmed and all that stuff. So what I was proposing we do is have an injection into the seed that will modify the plant but will not kill the animal when they try to eat it. So what you'll do is um, you'll hire people that they'll send all the seeds in the machine by relative size, and based on the size they'll go into like a specific needle size, and they'll have a injection that will um, have a pesticide in it, but it will not. If the animal tries to eat it when it starts growing, it's not gonna kill the animal like these pesticides are now. It's just gonna give it a bad taste and deter it, just like you kind of do with plants around your house, so you don't have deers eat it. You spray this, not chemical, but um, substance on it that'll make it taste bad. And with this injection, you'll be able to wash the taste off with a water-based solution before reaching the store, so no one's really going to be harmed by it um, and come in contact with it really. And see, this is just what the gardens and stuff look like now when there's no GMOs. It's all really green, fresh. There's no signs that say that this is harmful and all that kind of stuff. Animal safety. It's all about keeping the health of the insect and environment at the forefront. That's really what this policy kind of does. Is it doesn't affect the animal in a negative way. It just deters it, which is good. We don't really want to harm anyone else or any animals, I should say. create an all-around balanced environment. So there's no way that this could get into the water stream and have animals drinking it and get sick and all that kind of stuff. And then make sure that there's no chemicals that will kill some of the native insects off. Like I said, we don't want to kill anybody. So plant safety. This injection will ensure that no airborne pesticides will need to be used anymore. Since it's going to be injected in the plant, it's not going to travel anywhere by air. It's going to stay on the plant until it's finished growing. Obviously, nothing will be able to spread and harm plants that are not made for it. So if like say a crop dusting plant goes into the air and maybe there's a wind that day, maybe it'll travel to plants that they don't want it to, and this will totally eliminate that. And then beneficial fungus in the environment that helps plants will thrive as nature intended, because this pesticide's not spreading, so they will not be harmed either. Human safety. Pesticides have been linked to many health concerns such as nausea, headaches, cancer, and reproductive harm. And that's what we really want to eliminate. We don't want people that live around these to become in contact with it, because that's where things tend to happen. It also causes eye irritation, skin inflammation, gets in the food and water if it's not done properly. Symptoms may be visible years after exposure. So if you're exposed to pesticides, maybe you won't have symptoms a year down the road. Maybe you'll have it 5 or 10 years, and that could be anywhere from cancer, reproductive harm, all that kind of stuff. So there's going to be people that are going to counteract your policy with a different types of questions. Some are, how are you going to be able to inject millions of seeds? Will this affect the growing process? How long will it take before these plants are fully mature? Will it slow it down or anything? Why can't we use planes instead to implement this process? That's a really big one, because we use pesticides that are airborne all the time. So some of the answers are: the seeds will go through a machine that sorts them by relative sizes, like we said before. It'll just have a kind of like a feeder sort of thing that breaks it off, because there's going to be so many of them. So obviously they'll filter into 1 to 1,000 of the needles. That's kind of like a estimated range. This process will not be detrimental to the growing process, so it won't affect the speed. It'll grow at normal speed, healthy, like it's supposed to be. Immediate results. So once the seed starts germinating and coming out of the ground, then the pesticide will be on it from that start. The use of planes risks the spread of chemicals through the air. That's why we kind of want to eliminate the use of planes, because it gets in the air and then people around it and all that kind of stuff. So conclusion: if we keep going on the track we're going, more harm to humans and other animals will result. Mostly for insects, usually, that try to eat the plants, because that's just what they try to do. And these pesticides that are in our environment right now are just meant to ward off all of them and kill them. And my policy doesn't want to eliminate these animals, because they are helpful to some parts of the environment. This proposal will stable our environment, ensure a safety and healthy future. It will, because it's not putting anything in harm. Everything's going to just go back as usual. We need to make sure that we take necessary steps needed to put this into action. So what I mean by this is we need to have not petitions, but documents that we could kind of bring up to like local government and all that kind of stuff, and propose that to them and see what they think about it. Because if we don't start doing that, nothing's going to ever change, and then we don't know where we're really heading for that. If we might have a huge breakout of pesticides that get into our water and it's hard to get out. You've seen that with things around the country, like sulfur and all that kind of stuff that get in the water. People have to buy bottled water for a little bit until it kind of flushes out. We have to leave this earth in better condition than we came to it. So a big thing with environmentalists is they're always trying to improve the environment and just overall make it a better place, a more sustainable place, not as harmful for people to be in it and all that kind of stuff. So I would like to thank you for listening, and I'll see you later.